I was sitting on my couch, suitcase by the door, cruise tickets printed and ready. I'd been dreaming of this trip for months, my first real vacation in years, and with my son Jason and his family. Then my phone buzzed. I smiled, thinking it was Jason letting me know they were on their way. But the message read, "You're not coming on the cruise. Monica prefers to keep it just her family." I stared at the screen. My chest tightened. I felt cold. I paid for that cruise. Every ticket, every room. I also paid for their house, helped them survive when Jason lost his job. And now, I was no longer part of their family? I didn't reply. I didn't cry. I just stood up, walked to the door, and wheeled my suitcase back into the bedroom. That night, as I sat in silence, one thought echoed in my mind. If I'm not part of their family, then maybe I need to stop acting like I am. If you believe family should never take love for granted, subscribe for more real-life stories that speak truth and healing. People say a mother's love is unconditional. I used to believe that, until I realized that some people mistake kindness for weakness. It all started 3 years ago. Jason had just lost his job. The tech company he worked for downsized overnight. I remember him calling me, his voice shaking, saying, "Mum, I don't know how I'm going to tell Monica." They had 2 little kids, both under 5. Monica didn't work. She said being a stay-at-home mum was her full-time job, and I respected that. But rent was due, the fridge was nearly empty, and Jason sounded like a man drowning. I didn't hesitate. I pulled $2,000 from my emergency fund that night and wired it to his account. That was just the beginning. The next month I paid their rent again, and the month after that. Before long I was covering groceries, daycare, utility bills, everything. I used to joke that I should just move in and start doing the laundry too. They laughed, but the truth is it wasn't funny. At first, they were grateful. Jason called every day to update me. Monica even invited me over for dinner once or twice. But the moment Jason landed a new job, things changed. He got hired at a new company with better pay and better hours. I thought it meant they'd finally get back on their feet and maybe give me a little breathing room. But instead of easing off, they moved into a bigger apartment and upgraded their car. I tried to speak up. "Maybe wait a bit before spending more," I said gently. "Build a little cushion first." Monica rolled her eyes and said, "We've been struggling for so long, Eleanor. Let us breathe." So I let them breathe. I kept paying, thinking I was helping my son stand tall again. Then came the big ask, the house. Jason called one afternoon full of excitement. "Mum, we found the perfect place. It's not huge, but it's close to good schools and has a yard for the kids. We just need a little help with the down payment. We'll pay you back, of course." Of course. They needed $50,000. I had $58,000 in my savings. That money was supposed to carry me through retirement. But I told myself I'd be okay. I still worked part-time at the clinic. I didn't need much. I wired the money the next day. Jason cried. Monica sent a short text that said, "Thanks, Eleanor." That was it. After they moved in, something shifted. I stopped getting calls. Monica never invited me over, even when I brought birthday gifts for the kids. I'd drop the bags at the front door and drive away without even seeing them. One day, I knocked. Monica answered. "Oh," she said flatly. "Jason didn't tell me you were coming. I just wanted to see the kids. They're napping." I stood there feeling like a stranger at my own son's door. And yet, I said nothing. I kept making the monthly payments Jason claimed he was struggling to manage. I wanted them to have a stable home. I told myself they were just busy, that it was just a rough season. But the seasons passed, and nothing changed. I went from mom to Eleanor, from family to outsider. Still, I kept giving. And now they were on a cruise I paid for, without me. A cruise Monica wanted to keep just her family. Those words played over and over in my head. I had spent years helping them stand, and the moment they stood tall, they kicked me out of the picture. Not with a conversation, not even a phone call, just a cold, emotionless text. That's when I knew. I wasn't their safety net anymore, I was just their bank. But banks close accounts when they're abused, and I was done being used. The morning after that cold text, I sat at my tiny kitchen table staring out the window. The sky was grey. The air felt heavier than usual. But my thoughts were clear, crystal clear for the first time in a long while. I looked around my small apartment. 2 rooms, faded curtains, chipped countertops. I had sacrificed my comfort so Jason, Monica and their children could live in a spacious 4-bedroom home with a big yard and a brand new kitchen. And now, they wouldn't even let me sit beside them on a cruise ship. I walked over to the drawer where I kept all my financial records. Neatly filed, just like Tom taught me when he was still alive. He used to say, "If you're going to help someone, make sure you keep every receipt." I didn't think I'd ever need them. But now, I pulled out every document I had on the house. I flipped through them slowly. My wire transfer of $50,000 for the down payment. Monthly receipts from the mortgage company, all paid directly from my account. Emails with the realtor confirming I was listed as a co-signer on the loan, yes. There it was, my name, not just in spirit, but legally. Jason had told me he and Monica would handle the paperwork, but that they needed me on the loan application to help get approved. "You'll always be protected," he said. "We're family." Funny how that word family disappeared the second I became inconvenient. Still, I hadn't really paid attention to the details. I trusted them. I thought love was enough. But now I saw clearly I had rights to that house. My name gave me power I didn't even realize I still held. I picked up the phone and called the bank. I asked to speak with a mortgage officer. I gave them my account number and confirmed that my name was on the loan. Then I asked the question I'd never thought I'd say out loud. "What happens if I stop making payments?" The woman paused. Then she said, "Well, if the primary borrower, your son, doesn't take over your share, the loan could default and the property may be at risk." I thanked her and hung up. Then I called my lawyer. He remembered me from when Tom passed away. Kind man, sharp mind. He asked a few questions, pulled up the property deed and confirmed it. "Eleanor, technically, you still own a stake in that house. If you want out, there are ways." My heart pounded, not with fear, but with something new, strength. Jason and Monica thought I was just some old woman they could cast aside. But I wasn't just someone's mother. I wasn't just someone's bank. I was still me. And I was about to take back everything they took for granted. That night, I opened the group chat Jason had with me, Monica, and the kids. I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed, "I won't be sending next month's payment. You're on your own now." No emojis. No explanation, just truth. The message was marked as read. No reply came. Good. The next morning, I called the realtor who helped them buy the house. I explained that I was pulling out of the arrangement and wanted to begin steps to list my share of the property. She was surprised at first, but understood. "We'll need Jason's cooperation," she said. "I'm not asking for it," I replied. "Just do what's legally necessary." I could almost hear Tom saying, "That's my girl." It wasn't about money anymore. It was about respect, about dignity, about teaching the people you love that they cannot treat you like a doormat and expect you to keep wiping their feet. They boarded that cruise without me, laughed, played, toasted glasses, all on my dime. But while they sailed toward the sun, I was setting something else in motion, something they wouldn't see coming. The house I paid for was about to remind them who really built their foundation. I watched their departure unfold online. Monica posted photos on Facebook, her in a floppy hat, sunglasses and a bright yellow sundress, posing on the cruise deck with Jason and the kids. The caption read, "Family time, just us." Just us. That part stung more than I expected. I stared at the photo for a while. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. Done chasing them, done trying to earn a seat at a table I built with my own 2 hands. That same day, I had an appointment with my lawyer. I wore my best coat, fixed my hair, and walked in with my back straight. He smiled when I entered. "You're ready?" I nodded. "Let's do it." Together, we filed the documents to legally withdraw me from any future financial responsibility on the mortgage. That step triggered what he called a forced sale negotiation. The papers would be served while they were still out at sea. I also signed a formal notice of non-payment, which meant Jason would be solely responsible for the remaining mortgage, including my portion. If he couldn't cover it, the bank could begin foreclosure proceedings, or he could be forced to sell. I chose the second route. "Are you sure you want to go this far?" my lawyer asked gently. I looked him in the eye. I didn't get a phone call. I didn't even get a thank you. I gave up my future so they could have theirs, and they shut the door in my face. He nodded. "Then this is justice." I left his office with the papers in a manila envelope clutched tight to my chest. I didn't feel guilty. I felt like I could finally breathe. 3 days later, I visited the house one last time. The yard looked nice. The grass was trimmed. The toys in the front lawn were scattered where the kids left them. It wasn't just a house to me. It was years of sacrifice. Sleepless nights, quiet birthdays, empty holidays. It was every meal I skipped so they could eat. Every late bill I ignored so they could stay warm. I rang the doorbell even though I knew no one was home. No answer. Just silence and the sound of wind through the trees. I stood there for a moment, took a deep breath, then slid a sealed envelope under the door. Inside were 2 things: a copy of the legal notice and a handwritten letter. In the letter I wrote, "Since I'm no longer part of the family, I've decided to stop pretending. This house was built on my back. You've shown me where I stand, and now I'm stepping aside. I hope one day you realize what you lost. Mum." Then I turned around and left. Later that evening, I received a notification from the realtor. The house had officially been listed online. Photos, price, and status. Active. Jason still hadn't called. Monica hadn't messaged. But I imagined their shock when they returned home to a for sale sign in the front yard. When they realized the locks had been changed for the listing. When they tried to open the front door and realized it was no longer theirs alone. They took a cruise to relax. I took action to finally stand up for myself. I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace. And peace doesn't come from letting people walk all over you. It comes from knowing your worth and refusing to be forgotten. I didn't post anything online. I didn't explain myself. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them feel for once what it's like to be left out. I had always been the quiet one in the background. The helper. The giver. The dependable old mom who never asked for anything. But now? Now I was the woman who took her power back. And I wasn't going to apologize for it. I was folding laundry when my phone rang. Jason. I let it ring. I already knew what he was calling about. My realtor had texted me that morning to say the key exchange had been completed and the new locks were installed. The sale listing was live, showings were scheduled, and an offer had already come in from a young couple expecting their first child. Jason called again, then Monica, then Jason, again. I finally picked up on the 3rd attempt. "Mum?" Jason's voice was panicked. "Why are there people in our house?" I stayed quiet for a second, letting the weight of that question settle. "It's not just your house, Jason," I said calmly. "It never was." "What the hell does that mean?" "We just got back and there's a for sale sign in our yard. We can't even get inside. The locks were changed." "I stopped paying for it," I replied. "You didn't tell me I was no longer part of the family, so I acted accordingly." Monica grabbed the phone. "Are you seriously doing this because you weren't invited on a vacation?" "That's petty, Eleanor. We needed time. Just our family." I almost laughed. "Then enjoy the space you created, Monica. But you'll be doing it somewhere else." Jason took the phone back. "You're tearing our family apart." "No," I said softly. "You did that the moment you let her send that message and stayed silent." I hung up. And for the first time in years I felt powerful. Not angry, not hurt, just steady. A few hours later, I got an email from my lawyer. Jason had sent a formal request to halt the sale. It was denied. Legally, they couldn't stop it. I was within my rights to remove myself from the financial agreement, and since they couldn't afford the full mortgage without me, the house had to go. They thought I was bluffing. They thought I'd always be there to clean up the mess. But I wasn't a doormat anymore. I was someone who mattered. Later that week, I received a voicemail from Monica. "I hope you're happy. The kids are crying. They don't understand what's happening. You've destroyed everything we built." I replayed that message 3 times. Then I deleted it. Because here's the truth. I built that house. I kept the lights on. I put food in their fridge. I gave until I had nothing left, and they tossed me aside like I was an extra. They never once asked how I was getting by. Never once invited me to a single holiday dinner after they moved in. But the second I stood up for myself, I was the villain. Typical. I went to see the house one final time before it officially sold. It looked just like it did when they first moved in, except now it felt like it belonged to someone else. Not to Jason, not to Monica, to me. I stepped inside with the realtor, took one last look around the empty living room, then walked out without a second glance. As I closed the door, I whispered, "Goodbye." That night I made myself a cup of tea and sat in my quiet apartment. It was small. It wasn't fancy. But it was mine. I didn't regret the love I gave. I didn't regret helping them. What I regretted was not protecting my own heart sooner. They had their cruise, their vacation, their just us moment, and I had my clarity. They forgot who built their foundation. Now they were learning how fast it could be taken away. Jason begged me to meet him. Not over the phone, not through texts. He said we needed to talk face to face. I agreed, but only if Monica wasn't there. We met at a quiet diner halfway between his neighbourhood and mine. I sat in a corner booth, sipping lukewarm coffee when he walked in. He looked tired, worn down. Nothing like the proud, sharp young man I raised. He slid into the seat across from me, eyes heavy. "Mom, please," he said, "don't sell the house." I said nothing. I just looked at him. Really looked at him. This was the boy I once held through fevers, who cried when his goldfish died. And now? He was a man who let his mother sit alone while he sailed off with the family she paid for. He sighed. "The kids are confused. Monica's furious. I don't know what I was thinking." "You weren't," I said. "You let her push me out, and you followed." "It wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that," I replied, my voice low and even. "I gave everything, Jason, not just money, time, love, support, and you let her shut me out with one text." He looked down, playing with the edge of his napkin. I didn't know what to say. She thought it would be easier. "Easier for who?" I asked. "You? Her? The kids? It certainly wasn't easy for me. Sitting at home with my suitcase packed, waiting, wondering what I did to deserve being cut off like I was some stranger." His eyes glistened. "I was wrong." "Yes, you were." There was a long silence. "I'll make it right," he said. "Just don't sell the house. We'll find a way to pay you back. Just give me time." I folded my hands in front of me. "Jason, I'm not doing this to punish you. I'm doing this to protect myself. I've spent years giving, and it left me with nothing. I live in a tiny apartment with second-hand furniture while you and Monica hosted barbecues and posted vacation pictures. Did you ever once ask how I was doing? If I needed anything?" His shoulders sank. "No," I continued. "You didn't, because you assumed I'd always be there, always giving, always invisible." He wiped his eyes. "I'm sorry, Mum. I don't need your apology, I said. I need you to understand that love isn't one-sided. I don't owe you anything, not anymore. He nodded slowly. But the kids, they love you. I swallowed hard. I love them too, and I always will. But I can't keep hurting myself to stay in their lives. If they want to see me, they'll find me. Jason looked like a man who'd just lost something he thought would always be there. And maybe he had. 2 days later, Monica showed up at my door without calling. I opened it halfway. She stood there with arms crossed, jaw clenched. I hope you're proud of yourself, she snapped. You've embarrassed us. Everyone's talking. I looked at her. Let them. You're selling your own son's home out of spite. I smiled, just a little. No. I'm selling my investment because it no longer brings me peace. That's not spite. That's wisdom. Monica shook her head and stormed off, muttering something under her breath. I didn't care to catch it. A week later, I received confirmation from the realtor. The house had officially gone under contract. The buyer offered close to asking price. The proceeds would be split, and my share would be deposited within a week. Jason didn't call again. I think he knew I wouldn't answer. But that meeting at the diner stayed with me, because for once, I spoke from strength, not sadness. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I told the truth and I stood by it. The Eleanor they knew was gone. In her place stood someone who finally chose herself. And that changed everything. The deposit hit my account on a quiet Thursday morning. I sat at my kitchen table, just like I had the day Jason's text broke my heart. But this time the silence felt different. It wasn't heavy. It was peaceful. I stared at the screen. 124,680s. My share of the sale. My sacrifice now made liquid. No one could take this from me. Not Jason, not Monica, not even guilt. I didn't rush out to spend it. I didn't buy a new car or fancy clothes. That wasn't me. I made a cup of tea and thought about the life I wanted moving forward. One where I didn't have to shrink to make others comfortable. That weekend, I went for a walk through a quiet neighbourhood near the senior centre where I volunteered. It had small homes with flower boxes and porches just big enough for a rocking chair and a breeze. And then I saw it. A single-storey pale blue cottage with white shutters and a for sale by owner sign in the front yard. Nothing fancy, but charming, warm. I called the number. The woman who answered was sweet, said her parents had lived there for 30 years and she just wanted someone who would love the place like they did. I made an offer the next morning, cash. While the papers were processing, I visited the local clinic where I sometimes dropped off supplies. There was a nurse I always chatted with, Angela. She told me about a young single mum named Lila who'd been struggling, diagnosed with lymphoma, still showing up to work when she could, trying to raise a 6-year-old boy with no help. She never asks for anything, Angela said. She's proud, but she's barely hanging on. I asked to meet her. When Lila came into the break room, I saw the weight on her face instantly. Tired eyes, thin frame, but still standing tall. I introduced myself, told her I'd heard about her strength and her son. Then I handed her a plain white envelope. She hesitated. What is this? Hope, I said simply. Inside was a check for $20,000, enough to cover her treatment, rent, and a little breathing room. She burst into tears. I hugged her like a daughter. She clung to me like I was the first person who'd seen her in months. Why would you do this? She whispered. Because I know what it feels like to give everything and be left with nothing. You deserve better. When I moved into the cottage, I didn't invite Jason. I didn't tell him. He did try to call once more, left a voicemail that said, I miss you, the kids miss you. Monica, well, she's upset, but we're trying to understand. I listened. Then I deleted it, because I didn't need understanding. I needed respect. My new home felt like a fresh chapter. I planted flowers. I put up pictures of Tom and me on the mantel. I even bought a second-hand piano and placed it by the window. Some nights I'd sit on the porch with tea and wave at the neighbours. No drama, no demands, just quiet. I used to think being needed was the same as being loved. I gave and gave, thinking it would buy closeness. But now I finally understood. You can't buy love. And you shouldn't have to earn respect from your own family. The money wasn't revenge, it was restoration. I didn't burn bridges. I simply stopped watering dead plants. And in doing so, I grew something new, something beautiful, something mine. The hardest part of walking away wasn't leaving the house or ignoring Jason's calls. It was missing the kids. My grandchildren, Emma and Caleb, were innocent in all this. They didn't write that text. They didn't shut me out. All they ever did was run into my arms when I visited, draw me crayon pictures of stick figures holding hands, and beg for one more bedtime story. I missed their giggles, the sound of their feet thumping down the hallway, their curious questions, their sticky kisses. I hadn't seen them since before the cruise, so I decided to write them a letter, not to explain what their parents did, but to remind them who I was, and always would be. Dear Emma and Caleb, by the time you read this, you may be old enough to understand that grown-ups don't always get things right. Sometimes they let pride or fear or pressure change the way they treat people, even people they love. You might be wondering why Grandma isn't at the house anymore, why I didn't come over for your birthday, or why I haven't been around as much. I want you to know something very important. It's not because I stopped loving you. I never did, and I never will. The truth is, sometimes love means walking away, not because you're angry, but because staying would hurt more. I gave everything I had to help your mummy and daddy build a life. I wanted to make sure you had a safe home, food in the fridge, and a yard to play in. That was my gift to your family. But sometimes people forget to say thank you, and sometimes they don't see the people quietly helping behind the scenes. And when that happens, even someone like Grandma has to take a step back and protect her heart. But listen to me carefully, my darlings. You didn't do anything wrong. I still keep your pictures on my wall. I still have that drawing Emma gave me of our picnic in the park. Caleb, your superhero cape is folded neatly in my drawer. I remember every giggle, every hug, every whispered, "I love you, Grandma." Those memories are mine to keep forever. I sealed the letter with a photograph, one of me smiling in front of my new little blue cottage, holding a tray of cookies and waving at the camera. On the back of the photo, I wrote in big, looping letters, "Grandma's door is always open for those who knock with love." I mailed it without expectation. I didn't need a response, I just wanted them to know the truth, not the version they might be told. Weeks passed, no response. But I didn't wait by the door. I didn't check the mailbox every morning like a woman desperate for a sign. I lived. I joined a local book club. I started painting again, just small things, like the sky outside my window or the hummingbird that visited my garden every morning. I smiled more, laughed louder. I even hosted tea on Sundays for a few ladies from the senior centre. And one Saturday afternoon, while I was pruning my roses, I heard a knock on the gate. 2 small figures stood there, Emma and Caleb. Jason was parked down the road watching from inside the car. I opened the gate. Neither child said a word. They just ran into my arms. I knelt down and hugged them like I never let go. "Daddy said we could come if we wanted," Emma whispered. Caleb nodded. "I missed you, Grandma." Tears ran down my cheeks, not out of pain, but out of pure, overwhelming love. "I missed you too, my angels," I whispered. So much." That day we made cookies in my little kitchen. They drew new pictures. We laughed until our stomachs hurt. They didn't ask about the house. They didn't bring up Monica. They just loved me. And that was enough. Not every story ends with a big reunion or everyone suddenly getting along. But this one ends with something better: freedom, peace, and a door that will always be open to love. I finally stopped pouring into people who saw me as a duty, and I started pouring into those who saw me as a gift.